Dear friends, you're always very welcome to Empowerment Talks with Comfort Convo. Subscribe as you join us, and many thanks to those of you who have already subscribed to support the channel. Our guest for today has over 2 decades of experience in mental health, and she founded and operated a wellness resource, a multi-therapist behavioral health facility in Palm Beach County, Florida, for over 25 years. And she specialized in training and assisting those struggling with depression, anxiety, and preventing deaths of despair. Also, people trying to die by abusing drugs, alcohol, or suicide because they have, in quote, lost it all. So, dear people, like this video and share it. Stay tuned, and why not? My guest for today and myself, we talk a lot and we discuss a lot of things. So we have just seen the need to bring this useful information to you because wealth is nothing without health, right? And if we harvest all the apples on passive and we are unable to feed on them because of ill health, then it would be pointless. So like I said before, my guest, she is calling in all the way from Florida, and she is called none else but Catherine. She has been on this platform before, and she is coming today to discuss health. So let's stay tuned, get involved in the chat, say what you think, and why not? Catherine, you are welcome again to Empowerment Talks.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm honored to be asked to speak, and I love talking with you. And mental health is my love. It's my second profession, but I was a dental hygienist for 20 years, and then I had an eating disorder, and I finally got help in 1985 from a fabulous therapist in West Palm Beach, Florida, where we lived for 25 years or 30 years, and we just moved. And I got inspired to go back to graduate school 20 years after I graduated from undergrad, and that was 1991. I graduated, and that's when I started building my business. Yeah, and it's morphed. You know, it changed over the years in terms of what I specialized in, because what I specialized in was eating disorders, and I always treated eating disorders. But this deaths by despair, I happened to take a Facebook challenge, Facebook group challenge in January of this year out of Australia. It was a free challenge for 2 weeks. And I said, you know what, I want to take it because I want to become an expert at Facebook groups. And I learned a lot. And I called the group's name, I haven't really done that much with it, but it was called Unstoppable. And that's where the deaths from despair, because when I was working with the trainer, his name is Mark Boness. I'm actually trying to get him, but it's a little difficult. But he was talking about how he was totally in despair, and from that morphed this huge company that he has now today. Mm-hmm. And because of COVID, that's where the death from despair has come from. Mm-hmm. And because of the loneliness, and right now in Florida, I don't know what it's like in England, but in Florida, we are on lockdown, basically. Well, we are, but sort of pretending that we're not. But the children, all our ICU beds for children aren't taken. They're full. So mm-hmm. It's really bad. And, the isolation, the people that are the most affected by, they say, by deaths by despair are people from the ages of like 23 to, they say 38 or 40, but I extend it out to anyone who's lonely, because if you're living alone and you're in lockdown, can you imagine? Okay.
Catherine, I would like you to, because there's somewhere I would like you to talk about this. You will really talk a bit, you go detailed into this at some point, but I would like us to begin first, because this is not a usual thing. This is Empowerment Talks. We do empower people, but our first thing, while we discuss here, people know we talk business, we talk about passive. So why the idea of talking health here today, and you talk a lot about mental health? Why bringing health into business?
Because if you aren't healthy, you can't do business. Let's just put it that way. I mean, it's very, mental health has now become so important, and where it wasn't talked about as much before. And actually there was a stigma about mental health, but now we know, starting from 9/11, when the towers were hit back in 2011, 2001, September 11th, 2001. I started working, firefighters and first responders who were in New York started moving to Florida. And over the years, we have worked with first responders, and it was looked down upon. If you were a first responder and you went to seek out mental health treatment, you were called, basically a weak person.
Right.
But nasty kind of slang word. But that's changed tremendously, but it still needs a lot of work. And so in business now, they have employee assistance programs where they are very aware that people need mental health care because everyone is under such stress.
Right. Catherine, I'm sorry, today is that day when that I want to really interrupt you a lot. So just kindly bear with me, right? You have sent something, because even me, it took me really long. So I'm just trying to get to understand. When they say mental health, especially in the continent where I come from, we think about it seems to have a lot of meanings in people's minds.
Okay, let me read a definition.
You have been in this for years. So I just wanted to know, what is mental health? Maybe if you go from there to explain.
I'm going to read you a definition of what mental health is. Okay. And this comes from the National Institute of Health out of Washington, D.C. That's all I use, NIH.
All right.
What is mental health? It says, mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, how we feel, and how we act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence through adulthood. And over the course of our life, if you experience mental health problems, your thinking, mood, and your behavior can be affected. And many factors contribute to mental health problems, which we can get into later. But so mental health is so important because it affects, like it says, your emotional, psychological, and social well-being. So it affects how you treat people, how you make decisions. Because when you're depressed and anxious, you can't make decisions. And there's a physiological reason for that, which I can get into later or whatever. But so that is does that help? Is that help?
Sure, it does.
I think that's an excellent definition, yeah.
All right.
Go ahead.
So are you okay? Do you still want to say something in addition to that?
I don't know if you want me to get into early warning signs or.
Yeah, sure. Sure. I just give us that information, please.
Okay. So, all right. So it says many factors contribute to mental health problems, including biological factors such as your genes or your brain chemistry. I mean, people are born with mental health problems, but your life experiences, anything that, people are traumatized as children, or any trauma during life can affect your mental health, as we know with the soldiers, with the veterans coming back, and any trauma that people experience can be very severe. And the younger personality is formed from the age of birth to age 6. So any trauma that is experienced between the age of birth and 6 years old is very damaging to your personality, and that's where we get the personality defects. But and also your family history of mental health, which people don't like to talk about. But it's like it's very genetic. There, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, the things that we shudder about. But bipolar disorder is the most common mental health issue that is passed down familially. through, it's genetic. Yeah. And it happens to run in my family from my father's side of the family. Not, and we've bypassed it, but some pretty horrible things have happened in my family because of it to some of my cousins. So there are many factors that can cause it, and people want to go, where did that come from? Well, it came from your family history, and that's the first thing I do with a client when I see them is I do a family history, and I just get so much information, and you can see it. You can see where the problems are. So, and there are early warning signs that you can, when people start to isolate or just stop eating or sleep too much or not enough. They pull away, they have low energy or high energy, or people numb out their feelings, and that's another way of coping. So if they're experiencing things that are too hard to deal with, and feeling helpless and hopeless is a big thing. And smoking or drinking too much, it just goes on and on. But but the main thing is isolation, and you can see when someone's depressed because they just don't look right. They're not smiling.
So I know you have, like, there are a lot of warning signs, but I'm picking on like isolation because that's one of the signs, and that's something that maybe we should avoid. But COVID-19 was one of the things that existed or was like predominant during COVID-19 is this isolation thing. What would have been the effect of COVID-19 on mental health? Do you think
it's been horrible? It's been horrible. I mean, I'm still figuring it out because I'm writing. I'm actually I have a website for my coaching, and it's called Family Wellness Coaching, but I'm revamping it because it's kind of out of date. I chose to hone in on families with teenagers to help them improve their relationship. But now with COVID, it's affected adolescents so badly, and kids in college, and then people who are alone, and older people who people who haven't seen their grandparents because they live in Florida and they live in New York, and so they didn't see their grandparents for a year, and now we're back almost in lockdown in Florida, and it's going to happen again. And so it's affecting everybody across the board, and it has changed the world. And matter of fact, Jeffrey Morlock speaks about it, but it has changed the world, COVID. And I don't know if we're ever going to get out of it. That's my concern, because if you do as much speaking to people as I do around the globe, the majority of people I speak to have not been vaccinated, have not, and they will not. And especially in Canada. And I have a lot of friends who live in Canada, and they are just really against it. And my cousin, she threatened to not talk to me anymore because she said, I'm not going to get it. And I said, but, she has her reasons. And I said, well, okay, I love you anyway. And, I hope you don't die. But, it becomes such a political issue, because it's become such a political issue that I don't even want to talk about it with people, because, because people, they come up with these crazy ideas about vaccinations, and it's not. Yes, you can still get sick, but my 89-year-old husband will not die if he gets COVID now, and he won't get COVID anyway because we're very careful. But if he hadn't gotten vaccinated, and the people that are dying are people who have not been vaccinated, and so it's it's very scary, because if you aren't vaccinated, and I was listening to Sanjay Gupta on CNN, and he was explaining about how mutation of viruses, and that they will continue to mutate, and they will find a host. And the host will be the person that's not vaccinated. So as long as they continue to mutate, we're going to be putting up with this. And this is not living. I mean, the last time I went out with my girlfriends for a glass of wine was, I can't tell you when. This is our social now.
Right.
Unpassive is my lifeline. I don't know about you, but for me, it's my lifeline to people.
The new normal, right? So
Mhm.
now, the stories of the thing about the mutation, the new variants, and so on and so forth. At times, people feel I'm asking this because at least you have been in this and you are still in it, though. People feel that these are the things that even affect people more than even the illness itself or than the virus itself. So is this a greater part of where the problem, the mental health problems come from now during COVID? Is it because of the stories that are behind COVID, or
I
is it
think,
because of, yeah?
no, I don't think that I mean, I think it's both. Okay. I know that the reason I started being concerned about it was because when I first heard that statistic that the CDC came out with, that 75,000 people could be dead by the end of 2021 from death of despair, completed suicide. Okay. Then I started looking at who they were looking at, and they were looking at mostly college students. Okay, because a lot of college students, and many still are not back at school. They're still home on online learning. Now, I happen to love online learning, but a lot of people can't do online learning. They need help with it. And I'm not criticizing parents, but a lot of parents don't know how to do it either. So that's what got me interested, is to coach them and help them to become organized and to realize that it's not, you just have to be disciplined and have a schedule and be able to stay on track and have someone to help you do that. But they're away from their friends, and those, kids that age need friends. Kids that are teenagers, adolescents, they need their friends. And I appreciate that, because I saw it with my own daughter, that she, I would sometimes feel like left out because I wasn't seeing her so much, but then I realized she needed her friends. And so, we changed things, and our home became one of the places that everybody hung out at, because I wanted the kids there, and so this isolation has made people feel hopeless, and their education, some of their education has been disrupted. Not that everyone needs to go to college to be successful, but those who are in college, who do want to get a degree and follow through with that, some of them have dropped out of school. And so they feel like they don't know what they're going to do. They're hopeless. And if you're hopeless, then that's a problem.
No, the problem here is that hopelessness and all of those, right? So how do you empower people, to either prevent themselves from plunging into mental health situations, or if they are already in it, to prevent it from deteriorating? What are some of the ways of helping people, especially now that things are not the best?
Well, when I see people, they're usually at their worst. Okay. We have the group that I formed, and it's just the way it happened, is that there's many different types of therapists, and there are therapists that will just be kind of quiet and listen and not give you any, feedback or advice. But in our group, we give advice. We tell people what to do. We're not afraid to tell people what to do. They need guidance. And so we call ourselves the end of the road therapists. And it's because people go, I've been to like 10 therapists and I've never gotten as much help as I've gotten in one session from you, because we're not afraid to tell people what to do. But in saying that, we also say, if we tell you something, please don't think that you have to do it. If it sounds like something that doesn't agree with you, please tell us, and we'll work with you and figure something else out. But the things that can help the most to prevent, or at least help people's mental health: diet, rest, exercise, and staying hydrated. And that's what happened with our dear CEO. Is he was not eating, he was not sleeping, he wasn't going to, he wasn't drinking water, and he wasn't taking the time to go to the bathroom. And that actually happened to me, but later, I'll tell you about that later. But so people, when they get depressed, they stop. What's the first thing to go when you're busy or you're depressed? Exercise. Goes right out the window. So the things that we normally need to do to keep ourselves healthy, when we start feeling stressed, we stop.
I know.
You know, and that's why I always suggest to people, exercise in the morning, get it over with, because I know what it does for me. It keeps me on track, and I can feel myself. If I wake up in the morning and I'm tense, after my exercise, I feel like a totally new person. And it's over with, so that whatever happens during the day isn't going to affect me going to the gym at night. And I don't go to the gym anyway. I work out in my home. And so exercise, we know, is like the most important, and then rest. And people don't get enough sleep. Now, as I've gotten older, I don't need as much sleep as I used to, but I try to pull all-nighters, and the next day I'm totally wiped out. So I've learned that I can't stay up all night. I have to get at least 4 hours of sleep. And if I do that, I'm okay. But it's better to get 6 hours of sleep for me. A lot of people need more.
Right.
And even Ash said, Mr. Rufara said he wasn't sleeping. You know, he was staying up all night. And you know what that does to you. It just wipes you out.
Right.
So, which then, you know, it's all, our body is connected. It's like our mental health it affects our immune system. So if you are depressed, then it affects your immune system, and then you're more likely to get sick. And it's the mind-body connection is so powerful, and we continue to learn. We know a lot about it now, and you know, the meditation that like Corinne does on Tuesday is so meditation is just so important. And I don't know if you've done the breath soul work with Dr. Modi, but it's really good.
Yeah, I know about it. I really need to do that, but I don't really have time. I badly want to be part of it.
It doesn't take that long. I'm doing it now, and I can tell you that I've only done 3 weeks, and in 3 weeks, I feel so much better.
Okay.
I do. I feel more relaxed. I feel I have more energy. I feel sharper, and my skin is improving. I've got very sensitive skin, and he calls it he calls it a magical cure. And yeah, so it's you'll get all the exercises, and then you can just do them as you know.
All right.
But it's very short every day. It doesn't take a long time.
All right. So now let's go to the next question. Like I just picked this up. Like according to WHO, empowerment is the level of choice, influence, and control that users of mental health services can exercise over events in their lives. So from your experience, I think you mentioned this at some point, if going back over it will not be really a bad thing. So do you agree with that? And can you confirm that mental health empowerment projects have healed or restored people's lives, especially now with the challenges?
I don't understand what you're saying. The World Health Organization said what? That
what they say the level of empowerment is the level of choice, influence, and control that users of mental health services can exercise over events in their lives.
Okay, so here's the problem. I always tell people that it takes courage to walk through that door. I said, a lot of people think that they are losers if they have to go to therapy. No. I say it's courageous people who come to therapy or get mental health help, because you have to look at yourself. And so many people would rather point the finger at someone else and say they caused this. No. Everything that has happened to us is not, I'm not saying it's our fault, but we are responsible for our wellness. And it's increasing the availability of mental health treatment. And, but like I said, especially starting in the 90s when I started my practice, I mean, we really were in the woods. Our building was at the end of a road in a, off the beaten path, because there was a stigma about going to therapy.
Mhm.
And today people talk about, oh, who's your therapist, but it's totally different. But when I first started, and for many years, there was a huge stigma about it. But now there's not. And, I mean, there's so many things that have happened. I mean, I think 9/11 was the beginning of it, the big change of the awareness of what mental health really, how important mental health was, and how our jobs in our lives affect our mental health, and the need for care and attitudes towards care. But then with COVID it's just they don't even know. I don't think they really know, because I see people that have lost their jobs, have lost their purpose, have lost everything, and they're hopeless. Okay. So I am very focused on, you have to have a purpose in life. Okay. You can be a mom. Okay. That's fine. I get it. And being a mother is a huge purpose in life. But I believe that our passion, other than our children, is our purpose. Like all of us have a purpose in On-Passive. And my purpose has always been to help people. And it started back from, I realized I had this awareness the other day, and I went, oh my God, my father was a dentist. And we moved to Vermont from New Jersey in 1957 when I was 4 years old. And my mom and dad met when they were 14 and 15, and they stayed together forever and ever. And they had a dream to raise their children in the country, because they discovered skiing at age 40, and they loved it. And so that's what they found a town in Vermont that was desperate for a dentist. And my father, over the years, when we first got there, people were poor, they had lots of children, and their teeth were a mess. So over the years, my father actually started by bartering. We got paid in maple syrup, firewood, you name it. We got whatever the products they had, we took, because he just wanted to help people. So he was raising the level of humanity in central Vermont. Yeah. And that's been with me my entire life. And that's why I think I was so drawn to Mr. Mufareh, because of the core mission that we have in On-Passive, just to raise the level of humanity. And I don't know if that answers the question, but
right. Yeah, I just wanted to know, because it's like people it gets really bad when people get themselves deep into mental health issues. Do you have success stories? Like, do you have some of your clients who can really testify that I've been a victim of mental health, and now I've been fully restored?
I have my own. Let me talk about myself. When my father died, my parents were like an institution. They were loved by all. My mother was Catholic, my father was Jewish. In the 30s, they fell in love, and my mother ultimately converted, but they made through World War II. They had this love story that was amazing, right? And all their kids have been divorced, but anyway, but we're all happily married now. I'm losing my train of thought. So so when my mother died in 1997, she was 80 years old, and it was just after their 60th wedding anniversary. Mm-hmm. And that was hard. My mom was my best friend, but I still had my father. And but when my father died, my father was 89, and he was a very dignified man. And when he died, my husband was in Germany. Well, he went to Germany right after. But I thought I was prepared for it, because he couldn't walk. He didn't have a stroke, but he just couldn't walk anymore. And he tried to rehab. And my daughter was 15 at the time, and we would go down to, and work with him every day and be with him, but he just never could get back to walking. And so he made a decision that he wanted to die, and we gave him permission. And when I lost my dad, it didn't hit me right away, but about 2 weeks later, my husband left for Germany, and I fell into a deep depression. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm happy. I'm laughing. I'm happy, happy person. I was in bed, and my daughter was scared. She was like, "Mommy, aren't you going to get up?" And I said, I was so riddled with anxiety. It was like the end of the world for me, and I didn't have any clue that that was going to happen. And so I reached out to first off, my husband came right home, and I wasn't suicidal or anything. I just was depressed and anxious. And I worked with a psychiatrist for 7 months, and he kept changing my medication, and nothing worked. Sure. So I had treatment, what's called treatment-resistant depression. And I had just met a brilliant psychiatrist from Northwestern who had moved to Palm Beach County. And I really loved the way he managed his patients, and we started working together. And I called my husband. I said, "I'm going to call Chris Kay." I said, "I don't care if he ever refers anybody to me again. I know he can help me." Mm-hmm. And I called him up. He said, "Come right down now." And I went down to his office, and we talked, and he said, "I'm going to put you on lithium." And I said, "I'm not bipolar." And he said, "I know you're not, but you're postmenopausal and you have treatment-resistant depression." And it was 300 milligrams of lithium, and it was a nothing dose. And people have all these ideas about lithium. And I mean, 300 milligrams of lithium. And in 1 week, I was laughing when I was walking around like this, like scared to death. And literally, he was right. He said, "This will lift your depression, and it will help rebuild your brain cells." And he's a genius. And then 3 weeks later, I was off out in Colorado skiing. He said, "Get out of here, go have some fun," because I had really suffered. And so yeah, we have tremendous and I'm not saying medication is needed all the time, but when someone is really, really depressed where they can't function,
right.
I don't take medication now, but I have to exercise, and I have to be careful about what I eat, and I have to be careful about how I keep myself hydrated, and all those things have to be part of a life program. So and that's how
so basically self-awareness is one of the biggest things to if you manage that well, you can. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if you don't have if you don't have your health, okay, right. and then if someone's in chronic pain, and because of something that's going on, it affects their mental health, right? Because if you're in chronic pain, you're going to be depressed, and your brain is affected by adrenaline. And so if you're anxious and adrenaline is pumping in your bloodstream, right. People say they feel like their brain is broken, they can't make a decision. Yeah. So it's like people, in order to be working at the capacity or at the level of their capability, and we are all working at a high level right now, I think, in non-passive, to promote and to help, before launch and everything. You have to be sharp. You can't make a mistake. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be sharp. You have to be able to make decisions. Right. And you have to make sense. And people make terrible mistakes, which can really affect people in a very bad way. Right. If you're working at a large company, you make a mistake because you're not feeling well and you're not thinking correctly, and you're afraid to call employee assistance for help. I always tell people, and they don't know this, but most people think that if they reach out for help and they use their insurance, that the insurance company is going to report back to the employer. That is illegal. Oh, that it's illegal. Yeah. It's because it's breaking HIPAA. It's the HIPAA violation. And even if they go to their employee assistance program on their site of work, it's still confidential. And so people don't really understand confidentiality, but I go, that's one of the first things I go over with people, because they say, I don't want anybody to know that. I said, whatever you say in this room is not going anywhere. I'm submitting a bill to your insurance company, which you're paying me in cash. They get a diagnosis. That's the only detrimental thing about submitting to insurance, is that you have to submit a diagnosis. But normally we submit like the least, the adjustment reaction, it's like, but sometimes you have to submit for depression, because you're documenting medication, and if your files get checked, I mean, it has to match the diagnosis. So I encourage people not to use their insurance. Really, I encourage people to pay out of pocket, but a lot of people can't afford it, so they use their insurance. And then I always kept my fees low anyway, reasonable. People charging $250 an hour, I think it's insane. Come on, who needs that? It's crazy. You don't need that. I don't think.
Right.
So,
yeah. Okay.
So how are we doing?
Yeah. So I'm just we are gradually approaching the end of the show, and I think do you still have anything you think it's important for our viewers to know?
Yes, I do. I'm looking at your butt. I haven't had any help. I haven't had any problems reaching out to people for mental health. I'll tell you why. I marketed my practice, but this was before computers, right? And even if I was marketing today, I would not use a website, or I just wouldn't. I write a letter and I meet the doctors. That's how I introduced myself to doctors. I started with gynecologists, and then I went to primary care physicians. And that's how and then I went to family attorneys, and that's how I built my practice. And then I established relationships with insurance companies. And so that's how I never had any problem. A new doctor would come to town, or a person would come in with and give me the name of their physician. If I didn't know them, I would call them and make an appointment to go and meet them. And that's how I kept my business going. But I have a very huge concern, and it happens to be with OnPassive. And I'm in the process. Jeffrey Morlock is my proofreader. But, when Ash says get ready, you may know what that means. Like, go to your accountant, set up an LLC, set up a corporate. But what if you're living in Papua New Guinea, or in Haiti, where they had the earthquake, or any of the poorer countries, and they say get ready, and you don't even have a house, or you're living in a tent or a hut? What does that mean? So I'm writing, it's called Survival to Security, a path to a purpose-driven life filled with joy, happiness, and dreams. Right. And basically what I'm focusing on is the basic mindset that is needed for successful living. And I'll read you something that's very powerful, and simple life skills. Because my concern is people will be ripped off by scammers. They'll give their money away before they pay themselves. They won't take care of themselves first, and that's charity starts at home. Right. But I know too many people who, and we have an adopted son from Honduras who we helped get legal. And he was here for many years, and then immigration caught up with him, and he's a wonderful man, and he has a family, and David's he has a construction company now. And I said to him when we bought our new house and he was doing some work, I said, David, who do you pay first? He said, I have to take care of all the people, because where he lives and all are centered around the church, and he also is the pastor. I said, no. I said, you have 2 children and a wife. You need to pay yourself first. He said, but I said, I understand, but you're employing them. So you're okay, but you have to pay yourself first. Right. So I have a lot of concerns about how these people are going to handle, how these people are going to handle what means getting ready. And the other thing, and I won't mention the group, but I was in a webinar a couple of nights ago, and there was a guy in there soliciting business as a CPA. As an accountant, And that to me is the most unethical thing in the world. And I wouldn't trust him farther than I could throw him. And I didn't say anything. I just listened. But you know, if I were in a group and I was soliciting business for mental health, I get thrown in jail. So, but no, it's just not ethical. And I want people to, I've talked to David Bacall, and you know, they are educating their people, they're bringing people in, and I said, I'll come, I'll go anywhere and help.
Exactly.
And, yeah, and so we're trying to get this, I'm trying to get this written. It's not going to be long. It's just a really basic thing, but we take advantage of that. We it just comes naturally to us. But for some people, I mean, if you're thinking about survival, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You're on the first level of trying to find food for your children. How are you thinking? You're not. You kind of have to build. So I'm using that model, but trying to stay away from using Maslow because he's kind of outdated.
Right.
But really the mindset. And I heard something, they even said it on the news last night, that we are born with talent, but talent is developed.
Right.
And if you don't have family or mentors that help you develop that talent, then you're not going to be the winner. Okay. And there's a book called The Purpose. There's a book called With Winning in Mind. And I don't know where it is right now. And I just had it. But the different, this is the guy that wrote this book is it's called With Winning in Mind. And anyway, it's he said 95%, there's a difference, the difference between the 5% that win and the 95% that could win isn't their talent. It's the way they think. Because the people who win believe they're going to win. But the people who don't win or may win hope they're going to win. So it's mindset. It's all about mindset. You know, the Millionaire Mindset. I mean, all those books that were written, you know, but, and then I have a favorite book. It's called Pocket Full of Money. And it's called A Pocket Full of Money. And it's by David Cameron. I can write it out for you later, but I have something, I can find it really fast. It says,
David Cameron of the UK.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, his last name is Gikandi. Is he from the UK?
I don't know.
David Cameron, Cameron. And his last name is Gikandi. And it's a happy pocket full of money and infinite wealth and abundance in the here and now. And it's an amazing book, but he talks about the steps to wealth and happiness. And he says, you are now on a journey at the end of which you shall know how to create all the wealth and happiness you ever wished for, now without any limits. You shall soon also know many timeless truths about who you really are, what you really do, what you're really doing here, and what this game of life is all about. And here are the steps of the journey. And that's what I'm working on now, because people have to have a direction and they have to know what their goals are. So I'm getting into goal setting and all that. And so that's my big concern, because we want everybody to be a winner. But if you don't know how to be a winner, how are you going to be a winner? Make sense?
No, that's a lot of wisdom, right?
Yeah. So I had been thinking about it for quite some time. And actually, the person I thought about it was when I went to Mike Hord's group. He doesn't run it now, but that's where I met Viviana Rodriguez, who spoke last week at Seaside Chat. And she was talking about it and said, oh my God, that is amazing. I have to, that's exactly what I'm thinking about. And so she and I have spoken a lot about it. And it's just that people really need to have a roadmap and, you know, to get from A to Z. And that's kind of what I'm doing in the basics. So it's it's a lot, but we, on Passive is such a, I don't know if you listened to Jeffrey's latest the YouTube that he put out.
Not yet. I think I'm going to go there this minute because I had some sleep in the afternoon and I'm planning. He's one of mine on the list tonight. I have to really go through that.
You'll have to listen to it probably 2 or 3 times because he can become very philosophical and he gets into this, come on, come back to earth, right? So, but he speaks about how On Passive is so powerful and so huge that, I mean, in what we can do to improve the world, but we have to work as a group. We have to be united. And they know that there's a problem. They know, okay? And look, we're a sliver of society. I mean, we now are at what, 800 and I forget what the Curtis wrote down. I think it was 845,000 I found. So that's a sliver of the population. So you're going to have all different types of personalities, and we may all have the same mindset that we want to help. Maybe, I don't know. I question that, but I think a lot of people are still in what's in it for me. So we have to really understand that this is basic. This is like a last chance thing, because the world needs to change. I mean, we are on a path to destruction. Look at Afghanistan, and look at what just the climate control and everything, and this COVID thing. I mean, my God, it's horrible. And I can't tell you what he says. I mean, when I listened to him, I called him immediately and I said, "Oh my God, it's brilliant." And I said, "I was just trying to write something like that." And so Ash loves it, and Ash said something.
Yeah, he talked about it yesterday, right?
Yeah, he mentioned Jeffrey. So Jeffrey's on cloud 9 because he thinks that Ash and he think alike. And I said, "Oh, come on, come down." Get off your cloud.
Yeah. So let's round up then before we go back to the next. Guys, as a few more things you may like to know about Kathy is that she is proficient in working across time zones with individuals on Zoom, on Skype, and so do not hesitate to contact her if you need any help, and she's always available and ready to help all the time. So we really do thank you for watching. Share this and invite, because like Kathy said before, what is wealth without health? So Kathy, is there anywhere on social media that people can quickly reach out to you if they need your help? Or
Yes, I'm on Facebook it's Kathy Lee Friedman, and I know my legal name is Catherine, but on Facebook I'm Kathy Lee Friedman, and I don't even mind. I have a WhatsApp. No, I can give my phone number. I don't care. It's 561-346-7152 with a +1 in the front because I'm in the United States. But they can call me, or they can call me on Messenger, and friend me, whatever, and we can help you.
Right. Right. I think I should attach your Facebook link on the YouTube on the comment section, because if someone clicks there, they'll get directly to you. And
and I'm going to do. I was reading about it today. I'm going to put my YouTube link into my Facebook page too. I was reading about how you can do that. So yeah, I have a lot of work to do on my YouTube.
Okay, thank you so much, Kathy. It's always a pleasure talking to you, be it here or backstage. You are a very person, and I appreciate the education and everything that you are doing to help mankind. So thank you.
And I appreciate all you're doing as well. And I look forward to coming to your group. So
yeah, sure. Thanks. We are going to invite you really soon. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a wonderful
day. Have a good evening.
You too. Thanks.
And maybe we'll see you in Seaside Chat.
Right. Sure. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Bye.